Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/INTB and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's easy. Go to audibletrial.com/INTB.
Honestly, they're not that bad.
Welcome to a new episode of It's Not That Bad Podcast. I am Fern here with Dom.
Yep, I'm here, everybody.
So to wrap up our sickness conversation, if you will, literally the day after you left,
Yeah, you got sick.
I felt like shit for like 2 days.
Is it just me then?
I must be. Like, you left and everything was fine. And the next day, I was okay up until like the afternoon time.
Mm-hmm.
And then my head really started hurting. And I was like, what the fuck? Then my stomach started turning. And I was like, well, like, I'm trying to think, did I eat something wrong? Like, because I was thinking it was food poisoning.
Yeah.
And that shit, it hit me so hard. Like, it was like I was sleeping. Like, it was one of those things where it's like, well, if I keep sleeping, then my head's going to keep hurting, but my head keeps hurting. So I want to go to sleep. And then, like, my stomach was just like, and I was like, I kept trying to drink water, and it wasn't good. And then the day after, I was getting a little bit better, but it was still like, I have to be bedridden. Like, there's no way, like, it sucked. It sucked. And then, like, the day after, I'm like, oh, I'm okay now. it was so weird because it came on, just like we were talking about how sometimes, like, getting sick, it comes on, like, bam, and then goes away.
Yeah.
But it was weird timing because I just got over being sick.
Yeah.
Or it started to get over being sick. And then they're like, no, wait. We got one more. Bam.
Well, that's like I said, like, my sinuses were all, like, hurting me. And then, like, the next day after we recorded, bam, they were gone. It was all, like, I felt so much better. No more hurt in my sinuses. I think, like, what was that? That was whenever the day after we recorded, and it's like, I got up all, like, happy, and I could do things finally. Like, when you're so sick that you can't do anything, and then, like, you finally feel better, and you're like, why haven't I been up and about, like, lately?
Yeah.
Oh, this is weird. I feel completely fine. How come I wasn't doing anything? It's like, oh, yeah, I was, like, so sick.
Yeah. I essentially didn't drive for almost 5 days. It felt weird once I went out again because it was like, wait, how long? Like, it feels like I haven't been out anywhere in like a month.
Yeah.
When really it's only been a couple of days.
Exactly.
But like it hit me so hard the last like 2 days that I was like, okay, whatever. I don't know. It just, it's so funny too because I was talking to my mom because she asked me like, I'm going to go to the hospital. I'm like, it's not that bad. Like, I just got sick for a little bit, but it's not like I'm, aching everywhere and like, oh, I can't, stand up or anything. It's nothing crazy like that.
Or you're not throwing up blood or something.
Yeah, it's not like my head's pounding and my stomach hurts. Nothing crazy.
We live in America. We can't afford the doctors.
Exactly. But anyways, when you're sick or whatever, you're just relaxing, we tend to watch a lot of movies, TV shows, catch up on a lot of things. And I text you one morning after watching a specific movie because I didn't know how to feel. Okay, so was it last year? I think we saw a trailer for a movie called Simple Favor, right? It has Anna Kendrick in it and
Blake Lively.
And it's like, oh, that's cool. Like, whatever. And the way that the beginning starts, it's like, oh, it's going to be kind of like a funny, like, comedy thing. Then it, boom, switches. And it's like, oh, wait, it's an intense thriller. And that's what I thought it was. But as I'm watching it, it's like, this is kind of funny. Like,
it's like a comedy?
Dark comedy. But then it hits like the suspense stuff. And it's like, well, it's a suspense. But wait, now they're going back to the comedy. Wait, so this is, well, it's a murder mystery. It it like,
Does it not know what it wants to be?
yeah. But like the crazy thing is, it's like, I think I liked it because it's so fucking weird. Like, I don't want to give it away, but it's kind of like the guy who did it was like, what if I filmed it like these other comedy films I did, but also made it like a super thrilling thriller, and then just put them together. It's so weird. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I'm not saying it's the greatest movie, but maybe me watching it at 4:00 in the morning helped it be a little bit better than it was. But I was like, there's parts where I was like laughing, and then other things happened. I'm like, this movie's fucking crazy. I think I love it. But I will say, Anna Kendrick, she's really good at playing 16 or 35.
You know what? Yeah, you're right.
Because I will say that in there, she is a mom. And she does give off total mom, like, oh yeah, that's your kid, your mom, whatever. But then they also do like a flashback, and she's supposed to be like 16 or something. It's like, oh yeah, you're definitely 16. And you're like, wait, fucking how old are you? It's so weird. Like, she has such a weird look to her.
You know who I think of that too? Like Aubrey Plaza. Because when she was in the new Child's Play and she plays like a mom, I was like, what? Aubrey Plaza can't play a mom? She's not old enough. And then you find out she's like in her mid-30s, right? And it's like, wait, you know what? It is conceivable that she could be a mom.
Yeah.
She's a pretty hot mom.
But then she could still play super young.
Yeah, but she can play like younger though.
Yeah, it's so weird.
I mean, like, good for them, though.
There's people who obviously are older trying to play younger.
Yeah.
And you're just like, whatever. Or some people who are younger who are playing a little bit older.
Like Robert De Niro or Joe Pesci.
Yeah, I'm just a 13-year-old boy. You know what'd be funnier in The Irishman?
What?
Is if they did what they did for the George Lopez show. And they just put their head on like kids' bodies.
Yes, yeah. I wish they would have just done that.
Yeah, weird movie, but in like a good way. Like the cast is all there,
cool,
but it's just like, huh? And you know, I will say that the ending is almost like, what? Wait, what? Like, I don't know. It felt like he had like 2 or 3 different scripts, and he didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah,
and he's like,
what if I put them all together?
And he's like, ta-da!
And then someone's like, this doesn't make any sense.
I want more people to see it.
Okay,
because it's so.
Well, don't say anymore. I'm definitely gonna watch it now.
Whatever. Maybe one day we'll review it if more people know that it exists.
Yeah.
But until then, Dom, it's not that bad.
This is the fucking news.
Bob Iger stepped down as the CEO of Disney, and he's been replaced with a different Bob. His name is Bob Chapek, and already people are speculating like, oh, does this mean that it has something to do with Disney Plus and Star Wars and Marvel? Does that mean, everything's what is Kevin Feige gonna do now? Like, oh my God, what's going on, huh? Like, does that mean like something bad is happening with Disney Plus? And it's like, we're talking about Disney, so I'm pretty sure nothing bad is happening.
Well, I could be wrong, but wasn't this kind of a plan already?
I think so, yeah.
Because when we're talking about a long term of things, Disney had a hope that somehow Feige would be more involved and maybe even be higher up.
I think so. I think people are probably going to make. You're going to see in the couple days probably they're going to make more amount out of molehill. I think it's really that Bob Iger probably he saw what he did, right, and he's like, that's a pretty good legacy. And he's not. Yes, he's stepping down as CEO, but he's going to focus on the company's creative stuff. Like, it says that he's going to be. I forgot what it's called, but he's like going to be like the creative director or something. I don't know. He's still part of like the company, but he just decided I don't want to be the CEO anymore. But I don't think this is anything to worry about. it's Disney. If it was like, if Disney Plus wasn't doing well, if the Marvel movies weren't doing well, if like Star Wars wasn't doing well, you know what I mean? Like if these things weren't doing well, like the park numbers were down, or like they're like Frozen was what the Frozen 2 was the highest grossing animated film ever, right? And it's like if these things weren't, and if they didn't make like literally billions of dollars with Endgame, I'm pretty sure that isn't anything to like worry about. I'm pretty sure he's just probably like, yeah, I've had a good run. He's been doing it for 15 years, so he's probably like, this is a pretty good legacy to leave. I'm done. Like let someone else take over.
I mean, there could be a reason, you know.
Yeah.
Who knows? There could be a possible Me Too in there. Who knows?
Maybe.
But I honestly want to say that we talked about this being a possibility like not that long ago.
I don't know. We always, it's funny that we always talk, like I always find stories and we bring them up, and then like a couple months later or maybe weeks later or like just half a year later, people start bringing it up and they're like, yeah, did you hear about this Queeby thing? And it's like, oh, that thing that we talked about like a year ago? You guys talked about that a year ago? Oh, it's like, God damn it.
I know. She'll be leading the boards.
God.
I want to say we did, but or maybe it was like all this stuff was a possibility because I think there was already like changes happening.
I think it might have been when they moved him up from just head of Marvel or whatever to head or something now. Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
I think when they moved him from one position to another, that's when we probably talked about.
Yeah, you know what? I remember them saying that they want him to have a bigger role with Disney.
Yeah,
because that also had to do with they wanted him to do
Star Wars. Yeah,
and I'm almost positive that we knew something about Bob Iger either wanting to step down or he was gonna be stepping down,
or he was making room for Kevin Feige or something.
Yeah, it was something weird like that.
I mean, see, we talk about stuff all the time on here. You guys just got to subscribe, you know, and you listen every week because we're going to talk about this stuff and it's going to come up later.
Yeah,
and then
you want to be ahead of the curve and be like, oh, I actually know all about this.
Yeah, and then everyone's going to be like, well, they already talked about it on It's Not That Bad. So why do we even need to watch this other person's YouTube YouTube video explaining why this is such a bad thing for Disney? And it's probably Kathleen Kennedy's fault. Amy Pascal should just come in and take over.
Yeah, you could be ahead of the curve. So, I mean, it's up to you guys.
Yeah. All right. So the trial for Harvey Weinstein, you know, kind of wrapped itself up, and the jury was in a deliberation for, I don't know, it was like, what, 3 or 4 days, I think? It took them because, I think I know why it took so long for them to come up with a conviction, but he's been officially convicted. We no longer have to say allegedly when we talk about Harvey Weinstein because he's been convicted of rape. He was found guilty of criminal sex act in the 1st degree and rape in the 3rd degree. The jury, which was made of 7 men and 5 women, I'm pretty sure that's probably why it took so long. I bet you. So they found him guilty of the first degree for forcing oral sex on former Project Runway production assistant. This count carries a minimum prison sentence of 5 years and a maximum of 25. So hopefully we can get the maximum of 25, so then he can just die in prison. They also convicted him of the 3rd degree rape in the 3rd degree, which relates to him raping a woman, which she's just been not identified. This count has a maximum sentence of 4 years with no minimum, so it's going to be 4 years no matter what. Though it requires him to register as a sex offender, which it's like, cha-ching. But what I think is kind of weird is like they acquitted him of 3 charges. Two of the most serious counts of predatory sexual assault, which carried a possible life sentence, and an alternative count of rape in the 1st degree. But then did you see that like right after this, like I think it was like the day after, like he was taken to the hospital because he had like heart problem. I don't remember. It was like some dumb thing where he's like I have like I'm dying. I got to be taken to the hospital because now all of a sudden he has like that walker and he can't like really walk right. And
it's like, hey, but good thing because our prison systems do really well. We're trying to keep our prisoners, in tip top shape. So you're good.
I'm saying this great. Good. He deserves it because this is disgusting. We've been dealing with this Well, I mean, he was kind of the start of the whole Me Too because they were like, yeah, Harvey Weinstein's a horrible person. Look at what he's been doing for all this time and getting away with it. And finally, we're seeing that kind of like justification for like, see, this is why you speak out and you say like these things that these horrible people who just because they have money, they get away with it for so long.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that it feels like it's not enough.
No, definitely not enough. He should have got a life sentence.
Yeah, especially because there's so many stories that, there only is the 2 convictions. But I will say, I think it would be nice to know Kevin Spacey would be next.
Yes.
If he stops killing all of his victims.
Or like a Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a Woody Allen. If they all just went away. Did you see like just a little while ago for the French Oscars that like they all resigned the people the president or like the people who are in charge of it because Roman Polanski's film, his newer film, was like sweeping through their version of the Oscars. So that as a way to protest, they all just resigned.
It is a victory, even though it feels like a small victory.
Yeah.
But there is hope that, he can go away for, what would it be, like almost 30 years, I guess? You said 4 plus 5?
So the maximum would be 25 for the first count. And then the other one's maximum was so about 30 years.
Yeah. Which, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, because he's he's got to be like 60 something, right?
I don't know. He looks
I don't know. Yeah, he looks pretty old.
But, yeah, I don't know. It just, it's good. It just feels like it's not enough.
No, definitely.
But, this is, like I said, this is as small of a change as it may feel, it's changing.
Yeah.
So hopefully that this stuff will carry more weight and it'll keep going and et cetera. And, people could start to live with the idea that they don't have to take some of the shit anymore.
Yeah.
And that maybe this can reverberate through everything and more people start to speak up and what have you. And I mean, it's all muddy waters because really, like, even though this is happening, there's still people getting away with this stuff.
Yeah.
There's still people who
people
are going to turn their blind eye to.
Literally, the person who is currently the president is getting away with it.
Yeah. So it sucks, but it's good that it's happening nonetheless.
Exactly.
So fuck him.
Yeah. So just recently, Taika Waititi was talking about how What We Do in the Shadows spinoff movie isn't dead yet. So the movie, I think it's called, I heard it, Werewolves, Rhys Darby. He's the one who was saying that that him and Taika Waititi were talking about it, and that we always want to work together if we can. My werewolf pack is still in New Zealand, so it would make no sense for him to be in America. They did have some werewolves in the American version, and I kind of think they're just holding my character and my bunch of werewolves back in case they do the Werewolves movie, which they've said they want to do. So I'm kind of hoping we're waiting for that. But Taika's so busy, he's going to make a decision to step back from whatever in order to make that happen. Though Waititi confirmed he planned to write and direct the Werewolves movie with Jermaine Clement. Obviously, like they made the What to Do in the Shadows and then the shows. So I think that's good. Obviously this would be hilarious. We reviewed What We Do in the Shadows and we've seen the TV show, and I think this would be hilarious. And I know Taika Waititi is like super busy. I mean, obviously that's why he's probably not going to do Akira. But I mean, I feel like this is one though where he would probably go back and make.
No, I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty sure we talked about this, but he said from the get go, it took years for them to make the first one because them as a duo, they just take it too like lightly.
Yeah.
And so when the first one came out, they knew what they wanted to do the second one, but he's like, who knows? Then the TV show thing came.
You know what? That's true.
And he said that this wasn't gonna overstep the sequel. Mm-mm. This was gonna be a different thing. So he already said that just because a TV show is getting made, the Werewolf sequel was still gonna happen. He just doesn't know when because it takes forever for them to start getting something going. He said like, they'll email some like each other like, oh, what if we had this? And they're like, oh, that's good. And then like wait forever to reply, be like, you know what? What if we also did this? And they're like, yeah, I like that. So but it takes so long for them to finish their ideas, to get together and compile. So I do have faith that it's gonna happen.
Me too.
Because it is something that he said they wanted to do. So when, who knows? It could be another 5 years.
Yeah.
But I could see it happening, especially the way he's been going, where a lot of people want to pick him up for projects now.
Yeah.
And sooner or later he's gonna want to go like you said with the TV show. Like he can go out of his way to do something that, is very him centric. So it's his style of comedy, their style of writing, the way that they're gonna film the movies. Like it's a part of him.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of a matter of when it's gonna happen. Not, I don't know if it's for sure gonna happen. So, I mean, I've been stoked on it since literally the first movie came out, and he said, "Yeah, we'll do a second one sooner or later." Like 5 years ago. But hey, sometimes you gotta wait.
Did you see their announcement about the High Republic for Star Wars? So this secret project that Disney's been trying to keep under wraps for the last year or so about Star Wars called Project Luminous. They revealed it finally yesterday. So what they're doing is it's called Star Wars: The High Republic. So this is in the golden age of the Republic of the Jedi. So it's set 200 years before the Phantom Menace. So it's I know. So it's not so much way before that it's part of the old Republic, but it's not enough to interfere with like the newer or like the prequels or anything like that. But like it actually looks pretty cool. Like they have a Wookiee Jedi. And like that looks pretty badass. I think so. And then like they have these people called the Nil, which are like space pirates because the Sith are gone, or they've been extinct. Because remember, quote unquote extinct for this whole time. Because if you're a big Star Wars nerd like we are, like that Phantom Menace is when the Sith revealed themselves to be back. And that's why the Jedi were becoming complacent. And that's why you lead to this kind of, we're just kind of, are you sure it is the Sith? I don't think it's the Sith. And then it turns out it's the Sith. It's always the Sith. All we know so far is that this has to do with, like, they're going to do, like, books and comics. But they haven't said yet if it's going to be any films or anything. But I think they're going to do films, I bet. Like, why roll this out if you're not going to do, like, more than just books or comics? But I mean, this opens the door for a lot. I mean, for a lot of like Star Wars like stories, like I think we've said that before. Like, there's so much of history of like Star Wars that outside of just the Skywalker saga that you can tell, and I love that. But I think these Star Wars fanboys are like gonna be, well, what does that have to do with Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker?
Yeah,
how
because the cool thing about Star Wars pre-Disney that Disney technically admitted that they would pull from, they just have reservations on pulling from, is that like honestly they could go back like 15,000 years, still be somewhat resembling the Star Wars but be so far removed that it would be like you're watching a whole new thing.
Yeah.
But it would still feel like Star Wars, so you're like, cool, but then it would be kind of different and interesting, and you know what I mean? And if they are doing this thing where they do borrow from the legends and what have you, they could come up with some crazy shit.
Well, that's something that in the like description for this was that they mention a force that the Jedi haven't encountered, or like that the Jedi can't affect or something. Basically, they were kind of hinting at maybe the Yuzong Vong or whatever they're called, the aliens that because they live outside of the universe, so they don't live they aren't affected by the Force because they live outside of the Force or whatever, because they're from outside of the universe, that the Star Wars universe. That they might be hinting at bringing those in. So instead of happening years after Return of the Jedi, it would happen before, basically. Which I'm see, like things like the thing like where they brought in like Admiral Thrawn and they put him into what was it Rebels. Like, see, I'm completely fine with that. Like, because he's a really cool character. I'm glad that they did that. But, I mean, who knows? Like, Taika Waititi could do something. I mean, Rian Johnson might still. We don't know. But who knows?
Even if people are upset that we'll never touch on the Star Wars, the Skywalker saga or anything like that, it's like, in the grand scale of things, that doesn't mean shit. Like, for the movie franchise, sure. But for the people that quote unquote love Star Wars, there's a whole different universe out there that can do so much more than these original 3 movies, and that's what I want. Like, I want them to go back in time and tell the story of like these ancient people who lived in this area at this time, or you know how cool it would be if you went to some of these planets that you already know, but when they were, instead of desert planets, they were, green planets full of water and life. Like, that shit would be just as cool as a Darth Vader. Even pushing a new Star Wars in the future and having everything be like ancient past, they could get away with so much more because that's something that you don't touch on. You know what I mean? Imagine 300 years in the future and it's like, oh, everyone that used to know in Star Wars, they've been dead for a long time. Then you could go ahead and tell your different story. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there's so much there in Star Wars that doesn't have to be in this 50-year period.
Sure.
Of these movies.
Disney released the timeline.
Yeah, whatever. But within this movie timeline, sure, there's a lot that you could tell, and that's what we love about Mandalorian. But outside of that, there's a huge history that you could go and explore. Yeah. And I think that's kind of where you want to try to hit your sweet spot. But who knows? In the future, this could all be... I mean, to be honest, we could be telling this story right now, and then a year and a half later, it's like, yeah, we said that exact thing. You guys just listen to us. Or, it could just be us hoping for something that's never going to happen.
Maybe.
We'll just have to wait and see.
No. And cut! Tail mark. And marker.
Hello? I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl who looked good. I would call her.
What am I being arrested for? What am I being arrested for, huh? You think you're hot because you don't know how good I am at what I do. I see you. Concentrate real hard. Be a 12-year-old. Pie fight. Ugh.
It's not a pie fight.
Think it through. What's your mother got a job for?
Just in case.
In case what?
I don't
In case you fail. In case it don't work out. Yes, man. She's filling your head full of fear. I pump you full of strength. Because we're on a team, and I know you got what it takes. You're a star, and I know it. That's why I'm here. I'm your cheerleader, honey boy.
I don't need to talk about my dad.
Good take, good take. You did it, you did it. Good job, everybody.
My dad's not the reason I drink. He's the reason I work.
Come here. Come here. Try and light your loads.
You have good instincts.
I have good instincts.
Yeah, you
I got
have
rodeo
good
clown
instincts.
instincts, so I could never make it in Hollywood.
You could if you started when I did.
How do you think it feels to have my son paying me? How do you think that feels?
You wouldn't be here if I didn't pay you.
Honey Boy is a 2019 American drama film directed by Amal Peral in her narrative feature directorial debut, with a screenplay by Shia LaBeouf based on his childhood and his relationship with his father. In 2005, Otis Lort, played by Lucas Hedges, is a movie star who has an extreme alcohol problem. He crashes his car and gets into a violent drunken altercation with police. He is forced to go to a rehab facility where his counselor tells him that if he leaves the facility before they say he is ready, the court will send him to prison for his violent offenses. She says that based on what she's found, Otis has PTSD, which he denies repeatedly, but she encourages him to look into his past through exposure therapy. Going back a decade earlier to 1995, Otis, played by Noah Jupe, remembers working as a child actor who is accompanied on set by his father James, played by Shia LaBeouf, a former rodeo clown. James is 4 years sober, but clearly on edge and unpredictable, manic and aggressive. The two live in a terrible motel complex where a shy young woman, played by FKA Twigs, lives across from them. Otis wants to go to a baseball game with Tom, played by Clifton Collins Jr. from the Big Brother program, despite James's dislike and jealousy. When he is offered a part in a movie that will be shot in Canada, Otis calls his mother, who isn't sure if James can accompany him because he's a registered sex offender. This causes James to begin screaming at her via Otis, who has to relay both of his parents' conversations back to each other. Back to present, after resisting yet again, Otis's counselor, Alec, played by Martin Starr, advises him to go in the woods and scream as loud as he can. Then the film shows James attending an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, where he tells of his abusive stepmother, how he got into drugs and alcohol abuse, and while blacked out attempted to rape a woman, which got him registered as a sex offender. James forces Otis to rehearse the scenes over and over again. Otis asks him to stop and tells him that no one else would hire him because he's a sex offender, and that Otis is his boss since James is making money off of him. In 2005, Otis thanks Alec for the advice and continues to work with Dr. Moreno on controlling his anger. In 1995, Otis finally confronts his father and tells him he needs to start being a better dad to him. James hits him in the face twice, furious at Otis for speaking to him that way, and then leaves on his motorcycle and scores drugs at a strip club. Alone, Otis spends time with the shy girl, and the two are caught waking up together the next morning by James. The shy girl slaps James and leaves, and James vomits and asks Otis how he thinks it feels to hear his own son talk to him like that. Otis tells James that if he didn't pay him, James wouldn't be there. In 2005, Otis revisits the motel and imagines himself finding his father there in his rodeo clown costume. He tells his father he's going to make a movie about him. James asks him to make him look good. The two ride away on James's motorcycle, which fades into Otis alone, driving away.
Honey Boy, a movie about a funny boy. that has no
Money Boy.
money boy. So what'd you think about it?
Well, I literally just watched it before coming over here. Having just seen it, I'll say this: seeing this movie makes me like appreciate like having like a normal like dad who's not like pressure me to smoke weed and like smoke cigarettes and get rid of my big brother Tom. Honestly though, like I'll say the only thing I like negative I could say about this, and this is coming from someone who likes really slow, long, drawn out movies, is it did get to a point where like I was like, this is dragging a little bit. Like I think towards the part where I think he's like doing the drugs, like the dad, like Shia LaBeouf, and he's like in the like strip club, and like it's just kind of. I do like the edit, like the way it like it's cutting back and forth, and I love the like the dreams that he has where he's like under the bed or something. He sees a chicken, and, like was it socks or something, and then the chicken starts talking to him. And honestly, for a first time like as a directorial debut for like a dramatic narrative, like the director Alma Harrell, she does a really good, she does a pretty good job. Like Lucas Hedges, he's a really good actor anyways. He does a pretty good job. He does feel a little more like the older brother in mid-90s in this movie.
But I will say that he does hit a Shia LaBeouf really well.
You're right, because when I'm sitting there watching it and like he's like the way he's talking, I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds like Shia LaBeouf. I was like, you know what? That's good on him. Like I like that Shia LaBeouf didn't like tell him like, oh, you got to play this, you got to play that, or anyone didn't come in and try and he's like, no, I know who this is based on. Shia LaBeouf himself does a pretty good job too as his dad. Like, just imagine like you're playing your dad and you're like trying to express just what he put you through, and then also like trying not to make him a caricature of himself. I think he does a pretty good job, because at first I was like, this might be a little over exaggerating, but then you get to know him a little bit more and you're like, oh wait, he was a rodeo clown? Yeah, I think that actually makes sense to the character.
Well, you gotta realize that it's Shia LaBeouf playing his dad. They always had, a kind of problematic relationship, but playing his dad in Shia LaBeouf's most important time of his life. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's layers on layers on layers. And then you just have to think about like, damn, he must be going through a lot.
Yeah. Just imagine sitting there writing the script, right? And then you write the script, and then you're like, well, now I gotta play this. It's like that must be therapy unto itself, right?
Well, that's what it's interesting, is that the movie led because of the therapy that you see in the movie, all that stuff that he's like writing and whatever led to him doing the script, which is crazy. And either when he was writing or when they were filming or something, that was like the first time, or maybe it was when it was done, but that was like the first time he talked to his dad in like 7-8 years.
Damn. That's crazy. Honestly, I'll say this. The whole cast does a really good job. It's shot really well. It's a little bit slow at certain parts, but I mean, it is really good.
Like, it's one thing to have a movie made about your life, whatever, but to have a hand in you writing the script and then playing the most problematic person in the script, aka your dad, in the most important time of your life, aka you like gaining fame and stuff. It's like I said, it's just layers on layers, and it is crazy because I grew up with Shia LaBeouf, right? Like, I remember the Even Stevens stuff, and it was so weird watching that, because it's like, man, little did I know that any of this like fucked up shit was happening. Because I mean, like, it's real that he, like his dad, who he said he was, they really did live in this like shitty motel, like outside of a mall.
And that's what my mom brought up at the point. She's like, why do they live in such a terrible place? Like, doesn't he make money from this? It's like, yeah, but like, I bet it's because like, that's all the dad can afford. And obviously he's not going to just take all the kids' money and just like splurge it on a house like that. But I mean, this is just how like, this is how he just chose to live.
It's I don't know, it's really fucking crazy. And yeah, like I said, after watching Peanut Butter Falcon, which
Was
Shia
that good?
LaBeouf-
I haven't seen
yeah,
that
Shia
one.
LaBeouf does really good in that. And then watch him do this, it's like he's a really good actor.
I think
Like I'm not saying he was never bad.
No.
But seeing these two performances back to back, especially something as powerful as this, because really this is like, it's like a therapeutic way to say like, hey dad, I forgive you somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe you slapped me around a bit, but hey.
I'm a millionaire. No, but like even hearing the interviews of him talking about his dad watching it, and like one of the only things his dad was saying was about like, oh hey, you like, it was something about like the chicken. His dad was like most famous for doing a bit with the chicken.
Yeah.
And I don't know if his dad was saying like, oh, you should have put more in that, and like not focusing on like the abusive stuff or like the mental abusive
You
stuff.
mean the more important part?
Yeah. And even hearing Shia talk about it, it is, kind of like a love letter to his dad of like, I know how fucked up you are, and I'm never going to forgive like how fucked up you are, but you're still my dad, which I can appreciate because, my dad has had a hard life, and like most people in my shoes would probably be like, I got daddy issues. Yeah. I'm like, no, because my dad's still a person, and sometimes life is harder on other people.
Yeah.
And, it's just me thinking about what my dad went through and, how he led to where he is and stuff. It's like, I can sit back and be like, it's okay. I mean, my dad's nowhere near as bad as Shia LaBeouf's dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
even all his like faults and stuff, it's like, I can sit back and be like, yeah, I get it. And that's how it's always been. And I think I can appreciate someone like Shia LaBeouf looking at this specific point in time. Well, it's actually two specific point in times, because it's looking back at his childhood where really all this stuff picked up and led him to where he is right now. But it's also the incident with him going to rehab. He states that was the turning point in his life.
Yeah.
Where he stopped being, Shia LaBeouf, like the childhood, actor guy, to be like, oh no, I'm more important than that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like knowing that he did all this stuff, and then it was like, I'm also going to play my dad. It's like, you don't have to. He's like, no, I got it.
Yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, he's not he was never a bad actor. I think it's because of like that incident, and then a lot of the stuff afterwards where he did a little bit of like more. He did that art gallery thing or something, right? Didn't he do something like that? Or
you did a lot of like weird crap.
But now that you see this, you're like, a lot of that makes sense now. I think you can understand it a little bit more, because you're like, oh, okay, so you mean to tell me like he was not only physically abused, but he was mentally abused for a long time because his dad. So yeah, I think we can understand why he's a little bit kooky.
Yeah. I mean, looking at this, I feel like I can appreciate a lot more of what he's done. I don't know. I really appreciated this movie because it did what a lot of movies tend not to do. It actually changed your perspective on a real life person.
Yeah.
And not just like, oh, so the guy from the 1800s was actually interesting. It's not anything like that. It's like, oh, well, yeah, this guy actually went through a lot of shit. And, the fact that he's like not that batshit crazy is kind of insane.
Yeah. Yeah, because honestly, I think if it was me, I think I'd be more like, oh my god, my dad beat me. Which he's not.
Yeah. I really like this movie. I think it was such a good turning point for a lot of people to see Shia LaBeouf in this different way, because it's not just him acting, it's him acting as his dad in this like tumultuous time in his life, and then not only that, but having him write the script taken from a specific time where he almost threw his whole life away. And you know what I mean? Like there's a lot there, and then it also like I said, at the end it makes you appreciate him more as a person, that he went through a lot of this stuff, and he's still carrying on, and he's still able to, like I said, you watch something like Peanut Butter Falcon, and it's like, hey, that guy, I'm glad he didn't almost kill everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's crazy that that this person went through all this, and he still comes out like, hey, I'm a little bit kooky, but I'm not crazy.
Yeah. The movie itself I really enjoyed, but what the movie did kind of shocked me, because I never thought it'd be like, I think I love Shia LaBeouf. Especially 15 years removed from like Even Stevens and all that shit. It's just so crazy that you can see something like this, and him trying to move away from it being like a biopic but still being a biopic. I don't know, I thought it was really well done. I thought he did amazing in it. I would be super stoked to see what else he can write, maybe produce and direct.
Yeah, because especially as a first-time writer, like having this be like, hey guys, I want to make this movie. This is the script I wrote, and they see it and they're like, that's fucked up. Yeah, I guess we'll make it. And yeah, just this. I mean, honestly, I'd like to see what he comes up with as a writer, like for something else, because I feel like if this is what you're able to write about yourself, like what are you going to be able to write about, like about something that's made up?
I mean, who knows? He's still young, which is crazy. Like I said, it's not like someone did a movie about Clint Eastwood. Or, you know what I mean? It's like he's pretty much around our age.
Yeah.
And knowing that he still has a lot to do, it's so intriguing to see where he goes from here. Like I said, especially after last year, I really enjoyed the fact that he did Peanut Butter Falcon. Was really good, like heartfelt, good storytelling, really fun. Had Jake the Snakes Roberts in there and Mick Foley, so it's a good film. But doing that, and then also seeing this movie, it's like he's a good actor. I think that's what it was like. He should have gotten nominated for something because he did so well in those movies. So this movie did a lot. I really liked it. Good film. Back super hard.
Yeah.
Watch it on Amazon Prime, I think, right? It's on Amazon Prime.
Peanut Butter Falcon's not on there yet, but I assume it probably will be.
Sooner or later. And yeah, I mean, go watch it.
All right, so let's talk about some proposed movie sequels that probably we're a little thankful never happened. So let's start off with E.T. 2, Nocturnal Fears. So basically, this is going to be a follow-up to E.T., obviously, about a ship full of evil carnivorous aliens. They kidnap Elliot and his friends, and it's up to E.T. to save them. I think I read somewhere, though, that their initial idea for it, they kind of wrote like a treatment for it. And what ended up happening was they were like, well, we kind of like the idea of like these little invaders coming and causing havoc, but we want something kind of spooky or something like that. I think this kind of led to like Gremlins, but then also like Poltergeist. I don't know. I read that somewhere a long time ago. Like it was like That's kind of interesting that it kind of came out of this like sequel idea. Forrest Gump 2, Gump and Co. Because Forrest Gump is a book and it was adapted from that. There actually was a sequel book called Gump and Co. And this was gonna it was gonna basically tell more of the same right or guy in the right place at the right time shenanigans. Forrest invents new Coke. He crashes the Exxon Valdez and knocks down the Berlin Wall. Yeah, right? Isn't that crazy?
I mean, honestly, I could have saw them make it. Like it I think if all the cards were in the right place, they would have. I
think so too. It's funny too because I think he has an orangutan or something in the sequel. I don't know. I know that because I've read the synopsis or the book or something. And it just sounds ridiculous. Like like Forrest Gump sounds ridiculous on its own, but this one just sounds even more ridiculous. The Breakfast Club 10 years later, so we would have seen a sequel. But John Hughes expressed a strong desire to revisit several of his iconic characters, including this one. His original idea was to catch up with the gang a decade after the original film, but he ended up losing interest after like some time. Although that, I don't know, do you think that would have been interesting? I don't think so. I think it would have just been like The Big Chill, but like, oh, remember when we was in high school and remember that one day where we all became friends but then we never talked to each other again? Yeah. Ferris Bueller 2, Another Day Off. So obviously John Hughes was on this whole kick of like, I want to make sequels to all my films. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Check. Home Alone? Well, I already did that one. So Home Alone 3, of course. But yeah, I guess because after the TV series was a failure, so Ferris, who's now a motivational speaker, facing a midlife crisis as he approaches 40 years old, he enlists Cameron, now his business manager, to play hooky for a day and party like it's 1986. Considering it would be difficult to make as Ferris Bueller sequel without Matthew Broderick, who is now his 50s, probably isn't going to happen, right? Unless, I don't know, you think they could still make it? Gladiator 2, obviously Gladiator was a hit. But it's funny because the studio executives approached musician Nick Cave to write a sequel. Cave explained that God, this is ridiculous. Cave explained that it was his good friend Russell Crowe who approached him about the project. Cave had one question. Hey, Russell, didn't you die in Gladiator 1? And he said, yeah, you sort that out. Cave recalled of their original conversation, so he came up with an idea for the sequel. He goes down to purgatory and is sent down by the gods who are dying in heaven because there's this one god. There's this Christ character down on earth who's gaining popularity. And so the many gods are dying, so they send Gladiator back to kill Christ and his followers. I wanted to call it Christ Killer. And in the end, you find out the main guy was his son. So he was... So he has to kill his son, who was Jesus Christ, and he was tricked by the gods. He becomes this eternal warrior, and it ends with this 20-minute war scene, which follows all the wars in history, right up to Vietnam, and all that sort of stuff, and it was wild. It was a stone cold masterpiece. That's what Nick Cave said.
Why the fuck did they do it?
Cave also recalled Crowe's reaction. Don't like it, mate.
You fucking bitch. That would have been
that.
So
you know what? Honestly,
awesome.
That would have. At first, I was like, but then you know what? Saying it out loud, I was like, you know what? That actually would have been pretty badass.
What the hell? They could have had a modern day masterpiece, and they do the. I mean, I'm glad he wasn't even that great. They like fucked up a bunch on a screen, right? Did they have like people in the background that were supposed to be there? Is that the one where they have a fucking plane flying through?
Maybe.
I like that, mate. You know what? How about I just go and start singing? I got some songs I want to sing. It's like no one wants to fucking hear that. Make that goddamn Gladiator sequel.
No, I think I'll make Les Mis.
God damn it.
Yeah, just imagine that. His son, the big twist is his son is Jesus Christ, and he killed him. And then he becomes an eternal warrior who goes around through wars and
that
murders
sounds
people.
so goddamn awesome.
You know what? I think we can still make it, right? Can't we just recast him?
I hope so.
Elf 2. So in 2005, Will Ferrell nabbed the number 18 spot on Forbes' top 100 celebrities list after banking $40 million in 1 year alone. But Ferrell made it clear that he wasn't in Hollywood simply for the hefty paychecks when he turned down the $29 million to make Elf 2. $29 million does seem like a lot of money for a guy to wear tights, but it's what the marketplace will bear. He went on to note the decision to say no to sequel or such a massive payday wasn't difficult at all. I remember asking myself, could I withstand the criticism when it's bad and they say he did the sequel for the money? I decided I wouldn't be able to. I didn't want to wander into an area that could erase all the good work I've done. He also said no to Old School Dose. But you watch, Farrell noted. I'll do some sequels in the future that's crap. The Nightmare Before Christmas 2. I don't know why. Honestly, I don't know why this one didn't come through, because this is one that I could see them doing. But I guess this is what Tim Burton said in 2006. You know, Jack visits Thanksgiving World or kind of things, just because I felt the movie had a purity to it and people like that, because it's not a mass market kind of thing. It's important to keep the purity of it. Why didn't they make a sequel to it? I try to respect people and keep the purity of the project as much as possible. This is the same person who made Alice in Wonderland 2, Office Space 2, still renting. So Mike Judge has been a very, very vocal about the challenge, which working with like studios, especially when he originally created the original Office Space. Recalling in 2009, that was very satisfying to make, but I had to fight for every decision. The studio didn't like the music. They didn't like the cast, or much of anything. So when it didn't do well at the box office, it was kind of like, well, they were right. So to have it become more and more popular and make more and more money over the years has been really vindicating. It must have been particularly vindicating, obviously, since the studio later came back and was like, you want to make a sequel? Which he was like, no, no, dude. I think Hollywood sometimes overreacts a lot of times and are like, we got to make a sequel. And I think the best thing is to take a step back and think, does this need a sequel? Does E.T. need a sequel? Do we need to see him come back and save everyone from Gremlins, I guess, is what it would probably be.
A E.T. sequel would have been cool if they took it in space.
Yeah, that makes, right? That's interesting, but the fact that they wanted to come back here, it's like,
I don't care.
I feel like honestly, they probably still would have made Gremlins, and they probably would have called it like a Gremlins knockoff. They probably would have been like, oh, this is what Gremlins was trying to do before that, but like not as good. You know what I mean? Like, I think, and it kind of would have tainted E.T. a little bit, because it's like, oh, this like pure story about this lovable alien, and it's like he comes back. Because I think in the story, I don't remember. I know that like there's like evil E.T. or something. Something like that. But then there's things where they do take some time to think, and they give us a what sounds like a great movie, like Gladiator 2, and they decide not to make it, and it's like, come on, what's in the box?
I also think that, I think especially now more than maybe back in the day, people vilify the idea of sequels and continuations because of how we've been doing it. But sometimes it's fine. Like we were saying earlier with Indiana Jones, like obviously they're doing it again, but
one.
The Crystal Skull, watching those back to back, nothing fucking wrong with it.
Nope.
The only difference is well, you didn't watch those in your childhood. And it's like, who fucking cares? It actually makes a ton of fucking sense in this universe of Indiana Jones. And I think it's easy to look at stuff like that and say like, oh, that shouldn't exist. When in all honesty, it feels perfectly fine for what it is. Because I think that they have this idea that it's going to be the Tooth Fairy 2 straight to DVD. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these horrible, bad movies that shouldn't be made in the first place, they take up technically the same space as like a Bad Boys for Life, right? Where, sure, you could say that there's things wrong with it or whatever, blah, 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 but for what the movie is and the picture it's trying to paint or the universe that it exists in, it's completely fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. The fact that we were going to get, at one point in time, a 21 Jump Street / Men in Black crossover sounded ridiculous, but then it's like, well, why not?
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
And that's another one, is the Men in Black, the new one. People fucking hated it. I watched it and it's like, it feels like a Men in Black movie.
Oh, it's ridiculous and kind of dumb.
Yeah, like there's nothing out of the ordinary. We're like, this is about. It's like, it feels like Men in Black, but different people.
Which, it's like Men in Black in itself. The first one was like never meant to be like. It wasn't meant to be anything like more like, oh, this is look at how Oscar not like worthy this. It's like, no, it was Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones like in a movie, and it was funny. And then you get the sequel and it's just as ridiculous, and the third one, which is even more ridiculous. And it's like, what do you expect?
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm saying. Like, people, I think they go out of their way to say like these things aren't going to work or whatever, blah blah blah. But why not? Like, you tell me Gladiator Part 2, and it's like, well, where are you gonna go? Think, oh, well, maybe they're gonna do like an earlier life, or maybe just like a continuation, a different Gladiator.
Yeah, or say like he didn't really die or something.
But instead they're like, no, he's going to hell. And
yeah,
it's
no,
like,
he's dead.
Wait, what? He's gonna kill Jesus?
Yeah, and not only is he killing Jesus, but Jesus is a son. Did you know that?
Yeah. Oh, and Nick Cave's writing this. It's like, why didn't you make it?
Yeah.
Why didn't you make it?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any fucking sense. You didn't make it. You're stupid. You should have made it. But I don't know. Like, I do understand. At some point though, because there are times where I feel like, yeah, sequels and prequels and all this stuff, they can't get out of hand. Sometimes it's completely understandable. Like when people talk about like comic books and stuff like that, these comic book movies. That makes sense to me because there's so much there. It's okay if you do a Spider-Man, 3, 4, whatever, because it's like, yeah, well, there's so many stories you could do there.
Or even look at Captain Marvel. Technically, is set earlier than most of the Marvel films. It's like, yeah, it fits into place because this universe is so large. It can be placed in these different places.
It makes sense that those exist, but do I need a Spit on Your Grave Part 4? No. There is a Part 4.
Oh my fucking God.
No. And I think that's where, we get our wires crossed a lot. Where we hear a Bohemian Rhapsody 2.
How do you make a Bohemian Rhapsody 2?
Exactly. And you're like, that's stupid. What the fuck, whatever, right? But then you do something like a Bill and Ted's, Excellent Adventure, new one or whatever, right? And you hear about it, it's like, oh, that might be cool. But yeah, I mean, it's like, sure, do we need it? No. But am I going to watch it? Yeah. And I think like that's where we get confused on, because it automatically takes away from what you already know as this film, as this universe, right? When you want to add on already, you take an awesome story like Elf that plays out perfectly as a one story, hit, and then you say you want to do a part 2, and it's like, I mean, I could see a part 2, but do I need a part 2?
And
like,
financially speaking, that actually makes a lot of sense because it's like it did so well, and people like
It's
years
like a
later.
modern day classic.
Yeah, it's a classic to a lot of people, so it makes sense, right? Like that's something you think like, oh, like why didn't they make that? It's because, like Tim Burton says, like he wanted to keep the purity or whatever of it, and it's like you say that about this one movie, but you don't do it with other movies. But whatever.
I think there's a love-hate relationship with the way we view sequels and prequels and continuations and stuff, because it can do really well. I mean, people still want another Iron Man movie, even though it's like, he's dead, guys.
Yeah. But then there's other things, yeah, you're right, where it's like if someone was like, oh, we're gonna make a fourth part to this, it's like, why? I'm good. You don't need to make another one.
Like I said, sometimes it adds to a story where you want to see it go, like a Happy Death Day, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
There was no reason to make a part 2.
No.
But they're like, hey, it did good enough. Let's do it. And then you get a part 2, and you're like, this is actually pretty fucking good.
Yeah, it was surprisingly good.
And then you wonder, like, well, if they were going to do a 3, what could they do? There's always like a give and take. And I do feel like the idea of a sequel and prequel, especially today, has more weight on it than, 15, 20 years ago, right? Where the only ones that did it were like, oh, that's kind of whatever. I mean, look at a lot of films that you talk about, were a lot of films from, the 90s and earlier, right? But now it's like, it's almost a given that if something can make money, you might as well keep going with it.
Yeah.
It is interesting to think about, and especially like with us, we like to, be like, oh, what if they did this? Or what if they do this? Or, oh, like what, you know what I mean? But, that's two friends talking about it. It's different when a whole company decides like, no, yeah, we're going to do it.
Or, you know what I think sucks is when you speculate on how a possible continuation could be, and then other fans decide to shit on the movie that you just saw, and you're like, I don't know why you hated it. So then the people decide to give you like a half sequel, but a half of like something else too, just to appease those fans. And then those same fans are like, well, I just wanted to see a continuation of Prometheus. Oh, sorry, I let the cat out of the bag. Yeah, it's Prometheus.
But whatever, it's cool. I mean, sequels are never going to go away no matter what. But it is kind of interesting to know that, some of the more iconic films that we know could have had part 2s. And who knows? There still could be. But with that, we'll just end it and say thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
If you guys would like to support us, please follow us, subscribe, whatever, on your favorite streaming apps. We are on stuff like Spotify and iTunes, or is it
Apple Podcast?
Apple Podcast, for that, whatever. YouTube. We're on a bunch of stuff. Yeah, there's also a link to our YouTube channel. You can click on that, subscribe there, and you'll get the episodes as soon as we upload it everywhere else. And if you want to follow us on our social, that it's INTB_podcast at Twitter and Instagram. Or if you want to email us directly at intbpodcast@gmail.com, just let us know. Is there any sequels or prequels or, part whatever of movies you want to see, or ones you never want to see?
Yeah. What do you think of Honey Boy? Do you think Shia LaBeouf is good? Do you think he's too crazy and needs to be put away, locked up because he's too good of an actor?
Do you like to be sick?
Yeah, dude. Or what are some movies that you like to watch when you're sick?
That's true, yeah. I mean, I did watch a ton of movies even movies that I've seen. I rewatched Ocean's 8. Ocean's 8, right?
Ocean's
8.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You see the cast?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Do whatever you want to do. It's a free country.
Yeah.
It's
America.
Yeah. Don't forget to go out there and vote. People have their primaries coming up soon. We're also probably going to be getting back into doing some TV shows. So if there's a specific TV show maybe you want us to review or watch, there's a ton that I realize that I never fucking seen. Or, I barely caught up on what's that one? Like the end of the fucking world or whatever.
Yeah, is that good?
Yeah, it's crazy because I heard shitty things about the second season because it didn't get renewed. So I just didn't watch it. And then I was like, oh, it's only like 7 episodes or something like that. I watched it and I was like, this season's way better than the first, I think. But either way, like there's a ton of TV out there that, you know, we tend to forget, or, you know, we just kind of overlook, or even we watch, but we just don't get to talk about. So we're going to try to put more of that stuff into there too. So if there's any TV that you're interested in, any streaming stuff, I haven't even watched the Hunters one yet. Maybe that's something we could do. You know, let us know if there's any stuff like that out there that you want us to talk about. But until then, guys, as always, remember,
it's not that bad.
It's not that